Good morning, YouTubers. Forestboy here. Welcome to a beautiful day in the Forest of Dean. So today I'm going to do a 1,000-mile review on this new BMW R1250GS Trophy edition. So if you want to hear my thoughts, get yourself a cup of tea and join me after the intro. Okay, 1250 GS Trophy Edition. What do I think? I absolutely love it. I've only done 1,000 miles on it, but I've only had it a week. It's a very nice bike. The engine, obviously, I've had before. Well, I've had the whole bike before, really. It's not that much different from my old 1250. The engine is what makes the bike. The engine is absolutely superb. It's just got so much torque. It just pulls like a train. I mean, ride in the mountains, which I do quite a bit. Third gear, everywhere you go, just third gear, and it'll pull from 18 or 19 miles an hour right through to high 90s if you wanted to. I mean, it's just superb. So much torque and traction, pulling out of corners. I mean, you do pay the price for that a bit. It does tend to eat back tyres, or does the way I ride it anyway. The best tyre I've had so far for mileage is the Michelin 6. I can get 5,000 out of a Michelin 6. Other tyres I've got far less. This bike has come with Bridgestone Batlax A41s. No reserve judgment on those at the moment. They certainly handle well, but what they're like on mileage only time will tell. So it's a 1250 engine. Everybody knows about the engine. It's a boxer twin. This one's got the shift cam on it, which the old 1200 didn't. I've heard people say there's no difference. I have to say, for me it's night and day. The 1250 is so much better than the 1200. It doesn't have that it doesn't run out of breath like the 1200 did midway through the rev range. This thing just keeps pulling. It just keeps going. I mean, the 1200 was definitely lacking a bit in the mid when you started to go up in the revs. This one doesn't. It'll go all the way to the red line and still keep pulling. So everybody knows about the 1250 engine. Power lever, telelever suspension, so there are no forks. I mean, I absolutely love it. I go back and occasionally ride bikes that have got conventional forks on, and the dive when you're braking going into corners, I mean, it's horrible. I mean, you shouldn't get used to it, obviously, but these things don't dive, they just sit down flat. It's really nice. I mean, it takes very little. It takes an hour to get used to it, and you don't notice it, but you do notice, as I say, if you go back to conventional forks. I just think it works really well. My wife loves riding on the back, says it's the most comfortable bike we've ever owned. Not just this one, the previous one as well. I saw a review recently on YouTube from a guy, and he absolutely slated the suspension. I think it was bad on uneven roads. He just hated it. He was a Triumph owner who had bought a GS, and he hated it. He hated everything about it. He loved the engine, that was about it. Oh, I mean, what he did love, and the reason, as it turned out at the end of his review, the reason he bought a GS instead of another Triumph was the servicing costs. He had done a calculation, which I've done myself. His actually came out worse than mine. I reckon over a period of 3 years it would cost me £4,000 more to own a Triumph than a GS. That's at 50,000 miles. His calculation came out worse than that. Triumph servicing costs are horrendous. So that was the reason the guy bought the GS, but to be honest, all he did was slag it off against the Triumph, which, you know, he probably bought the wrong bike. The only reason I can think he may have had an issue with the suspension was apparently his bike was a lowered one, or whether or not that made a difference, I don't know, but I find the suspension superb at low speed, at high speed. On rough bumpy roads, I ride with the suspension. When I'm on my own, I ride with the suspension set in dynamic and auto, and the engine mode I swap between dynamic and road. I don't use eco, I don't use rain. I also have Enduro Pro on there if I want to do a little bit of off-road, which I do occasionally. Engine modes are superb, they work really well. I have, oh, that's the other thing, I have the traction control turned down midway, so it allows a small wheelie, but nothing too crazy, but also it doesn't interfere if you get a bit throttle happy coming out of corners and try and chuck you over the handlebars. Well, I think the settings are good, they're easy to use. I find the dash very intuitive. Again, that guy hated the dash. Heated grips are amazing. In fact, I would say on the higher setting they probably get too hot. Simple button there for the heated grips. Engine mode button is there. This bike comes with an SOS. I have no idea how it works or if it works. It was on it. It wasn't something I ordered. Cruise control is here. Very simple to use. It works really well. Brakes. I came back to GS's from a S1000 XR, which is basically a sports bike with a upright riding position. That thing was one finger braking at any speed. The brakes were absolutely incredible. I mean, from 120 mile an hour you could one finger brake and it would stand on its nose. These aren't like that. The brakes on this and my previous one are superb, but they're progressive, if that's the right word, and they're two fingers, not one. At slow speed, obviously, they're just one finger, but if you're having some fun on twisty mountain roads or whatever, it's two finger braking. And they're actually very good for trail braking because you don't get a huge bite when you first pull. You just feel the brake connecting, and then it's progressive braking. You pull and the bike stops. I mean, I've never been in a situation where I thought, oh my god, the brakes are not good enough, they're not going to stop me. But they're not sports bike instant brakes either. So yeah, if you come from a sports bike or something like the XR, the brakes will take you a couple of hours to get used to, but the brakes are great. It eats rear brake pads, absolutely eats them. I don't know why, but god, I get through some sort of rear brake pads. Fronts are okay, but rears, and I don't think I use a lot of rear brake. I hardly use a rear brake, so whether it's because there's the brakes are linked or what, I don't know, but I do get through a tremendous amount of I do get through a tremendous amount of rear brake pads for some reason. Okay, next, comfort. It's a very comfortable bike. I find the standard GS seat is way too hard for me. Way too hard. I can only ride it hour and a half and it cripples me. So, as I said in my first video, I do my own modifications of this seat, which I do to all my bikes, to be honest. I take the cover off, unstaple the cover, put a slab of memory foam in there, shape it to the shape I want, which is front high, low back, to push me back, and I find that works perfect. I've done so many now, I don't even think about it, I just do it. Done this one, I did this one, I did one long day on it and then immediately changed or modified the seat. That's just me. Everyone is different. What some people find is a really comfortable seat, somebody else finds awful. I have a couple of friends that have got sergeant seats and they absolutely swear by them. I found them awful. I couldn't stand the sergeant seat. I borrowed one off a friend, tried it for a few days, hated it, gave it back. The BMW comfort seat is no better whatsoever. In fact, I couldn't tell any difference between the comfort seat and the standard seat. But seats are a very personal thing, so I can't read too much into that. The screen, this is the standard sports screen or whatever it is, does a really good job. I have a Givy touring screen, a tinted one, which I absolutely love, but it's no good when you're videoing, so that's the price I have to pay for video. And there's not the same protection from this screen, obviously. Certainly in bad weather you get more rain on you, not a lot, but a little bit more, and it's definitely a lot noisier with this screen on. I don't have to shout to make videos, but I can hear the wind noise all the time, and I do have to try and reduce it in post editing. I have got a small wing on order for the front, just to see if it'll make a difference, but I don't know. I'll wait and see. You can keep buying these bits, and some make a difference, some don't, but they're also bloody expensive. It's risk over reward, I suppose. Mirrors, they're fine, they're mirrors. You look at them and see what's behind. What else is there to say about mirrors? They don't vibrate. I'm quite a big guy, but they seem to be wide enough. I don't have to pull elbows in to look at them, which some bikes I do, so yeah. They're not the prettiest things in the world, are they? But it's not the prettiest bike in the world either. TFT dash. It's great. It's a dash. It gives you all the information you. It gives you all the information you need, and a lot that you don't. You can play around with it and do different things with it. I just leave it in the standard setting. To be honest, it works fine for me. I've taken a lot of the rubbish off the top line, the status line, or whatever it's called. It's just, I think there's something like 14 lots of information. I think I got that down to 4. You can customize the dash to suit yourself. What else? Lights, yeah, they're okay. I do ride at night. I quite enjoy riding at night. Lights are okay. This bike came with spotlights as standard, which is nice because they're a ridiculous price. Not that I ever buy them. I buy Chinese ones off eBay for 25 quid and they do exactly the same job. And if these go wrong and they're out of warranty, that's exactly what will be going on there. So it comes with spotlights, it comes with radiator guards, it comes with frame guards where your boots, just above the pegs, where your boots rub the frames and always rub the painters. It comes with frame protectors there, it comes with serrated pegs, spoked wheels, handguards, engine bars. All the bits you would normally stick on are standard on this bike. I'm sure you pay extra for them, but here we are. Hooter, I've changed to a deeper one. I've got a Denali Sound Bomb Mini, I think, which plugs if you buy the cable. You have to buy the cable extra. It plugs straight into the existing wiring, which is great. It's a much deeper tone. Again, that's been on. This is probably the 5th bike that's been on, so I just swap bits from bike to bike. Considering a tank bag, but the blooming things, they get in the way and they hang over the back. I think they look awful. So my old bag here again. This is the 4th bike I think as well. Okay, now for the bad bit, the gearbox. Not actually the gearbox, the quickshifter. It's okay, I suppose, is the best I could say about it. When it works, like there and there, it's beautiful. It's a bit heavy, you have to put quite a bit of pressure on it to get it to move, but And this is a brand new one. My last one was the same. In fact, my last one I got BMW to check it 2 or 3 times, because the previous bike with the quick shifter was the S1000XR, which was absolutely sublime. These are agricultural. Yeah, now I'm pressing and it won't go down, and I have to give it a real thump to get it to go down. There was no throttle on, and from first to second, well, and really second and third, don't even think about using it. It's awful. I swear to God, the gearbox is going to come out. It's such a jolt. So when you're cracking on at decent speed, quick shifter works well. But regularly going into a corner where you want to whack down 2 gears, you'll find, like it did just then, it just sticks and it won't go down, and then the next 3 or 4 times it'll go down every time. I'll try it now. They are straight down 2 gears, no problem whatsoever. I could do that same corner again and it would just jam and it won't go down. And it's not just this one. Before people start making comments saying, oh well, you must be... It is not just this one. My previous one was like it. In fact, my previous 2. My last 1200 had a quick shifter on. That was horrendous. The 1250 was slightly better. I thought when I first had this one it was better, but it isn't. It's got exactly the same quirks. And I see lots of comments from other reviews on YouTube about the gearbox. Sorry, about the quick shifter, not the gearbox. The gearbox is fine. And it's okay, it works. Performance on these things is fantastic. I mean, they're pulled away there. Oh, I don't know what, didn't look, but it wasn't very quick. 3rd gear, no problem at all. Performance is right up there. I mean, yeah, there are faster bikes, but you know what? In the real world, how much more performance do you need? They accelerate well, they stop well, they go around corners amazingly well, far better than they should do. I mean, the sum is certainly far better than the parts. They're good in the wet, they're good in the dry. I mean, they just do everything. I don't know what. You really do have to nitpick to find faults with it. Servicing costs compared to other bikes are very, very reasonable. I've got friends with Hondas, Triumphs, Ducatis. They're all paying a lot more for servicing than I am on the GS. Now, I'm not saying that all BMWs are cheap to service, because they're not. Again, going back to my S1000XR, that was very expensive to service. But we're not talking about an XR, we're talking about a GS, and the GS servicing costs are, honestly, they're minimal. Especially when you compare them to other bikes in this segment or sector. Rapeseed's growing, I'll be sneezing soon. Oh, another thing I just remembered is, that is a negative for me, are these ridiculous indicators on the back. I mean, they really are stupid. They're awful things. I did see on YouTube recently that you can do a conversion, but you know what? You shouldn't have to do a conversion. This is an expensive bike. supposed to comply with all the latest European safety regulations, and it's got those ridiculous things on the back. I mean, they're awful. They really are dreadful things. And I think the guy that designed them should be made to eat them. Dry. Little humpback bridge coming up. See if we can get up. Here we go. Up. Oh. Shouldn't be doing that on a new bike. Oh, the other thing I do is I put a set of bar risers on which bring the bars up and back. I find it a bit of a stretch to the bars, especially once I've done the seat and moved myself back on the seat. I find that I tend to be hunching then to get over the bars, which gives me backache, so I have a bit of a back issue. So by moving the seat and the bars in conjunction, I get a riding position that suits me. Wouldn't suit somebody else. Somebody else might sit on this bike and say, oh my god, I can't ride that thing, it's all set up wrong. But we're all individuals and we all like different setups. I find this setup, I've now used this setup on my last 5 bikes, so I've done 250,000 miles roughly with this setup, and it works really well. If needs be, I can do 700-800 miles in a day. I'm not saying I won't be tired at the end of it, because I would, but I can do 700-800 miles. I mean, this road is quite rough and bumpy, and the suspension just takes it all in its stride. I really don't know what that guy was talking about. And I ride a lot of gnarly, nasty, broken roads, and I never feel that the suspension struggles. In fact, I normally find the GS getting away from everything else because it just soaks it all up. So I don't think there's a great deal more to say about it. Why do I buy a GS? I'm not a GS fanboy by any means. In fact, I never wanted a GS. I always had a Yamaha sort of sport touring bike. I had FJ 1200, FJR 1300. I had the 900 diversion, which I put a full fairing on. That was a nice bike. God, I did some miles on that. And then alongside that, I always had an Italian sports bike, either a Ducati or an Aprilia. Well, BMW was definitely not on my radar. I was lucky enough to retire early, 53 I think. And I'd always wanted to do some big bike tours. I'd always done a lot of touring, but I wanted to do some really big bike tours, 3, 4, 5 months, around the world stuff. So I started looking. This was in 2000 and 2007, I suppose. About 2006 or 7, something like that. And I spent a lot of years riding, competing off-road. I absolutely loved it. So my first choice was KTM. But KTM were, certainly back then, were extremely unreliable, and the dealer network was atrocious. So I looked at the Yamaha. Yamaha had literally just introduced the 1200 Tenere, which was a bike I really wanted to like, but it was lacking something. So eventually I had to look at a GS, and it fitted the bill. It did everything that I wanted. I think this light's broken down. Yeah, it's not working. Yeah, the GS fitted the bill. So anyway, I bought a 2-year-old GS, which was an 06, which had done 5,000 miles, and it was completely kitted out how I wanted it. Wire wheels, guards, everything was on it. I spent a few quid on it, the bits and pieces, but basically it was the bike I wanted. It had no electronics on it at all. It had ABS brakes and nothing else. So it was ideal for what I wanted to do. That bike went all over the world. I think I did 70,000 miles, 5 continents. It was a superb bike. I mean, it never missed a beat. I rode it to Everest Base Camp, I rode it up the Ice Truckers Road to Alaska, I rode it through snow, I rode it through rivers, I rode it through deserts. I crashed it and fell off it. It never missed a beat. I had the shaft overhauled at about 45,000, maybe a bit more, before I went off to Alaska, because there was a tremendous amount of dirt and gravel and one thing and another on that journey. So preventative maintenance, I had the shaft overhauled, which cost me £320. But that was the biggest expense on that bike over 75,000 miles. Apart from tyres. So that was how I got into BMWs, really. Wasn't my preferred choice, but it was the right decision. It was definitely the right decision. And I think I've had, since that one, I've had 1, 2, 3 more GS's and an S1000XR. So this bike's done just over 1,000 miles now. It's had its first service. That was done after about 4 days, I think, 4 or 5 days. I'm leading a group tomorrow. We're out. We've got about 160, 170 miles to do tomorrow. I'm taking a group out on the weekend up around the Welsh Lakes. That'll be a 200 miler by the time we get home. Quite a few rides over the next couple of months, and then in mid-June I'm taking a group of 10, I think, to the Pyrenees. We're doing coast to coast, Atlantic to Mediterranean and back. The outward journey will be all High Pyrenees. We're trying to do, I think I've got 34 cols, high cols included in the trip, so that'll be good fun. And then we're going for 12 days. There are three stopovers with 2 days. Obviously 2 days on the ferry, and then 3 or 4 one-nighters. The final stop will be down in the Mediterranean in Spain, Figueres, Roses, that area. We'll spend 2 days there, relax, and then we'll just jump on the Payage to get back to Santander. We've got 2 days to get back, which is easy. It's only 500 miles. Well, that's a really good trip. My son is coming with me for the first time. It'll be he's been abroad before, obviously, but it's his first big bike trip. So he's coming on his the Yamaha Tracer 9 GT. Now there's a nice quickshifter gearbox on that. Beautiful. So this bike will be kept for 3 years, which is the norm for me. By which time it'll be somewhere near 50,000 miles. Could be slightly under, could be slightly over. It just depends what life throws at me. Okay, so there you go. That is my first impressions video of the BMW 1250GS Trophy Edition, but also the GS 1250 in general, I suppose. As you can probably gather, I really like the bikes, and I really like this one. So I'm coming to the end of the trip now. So this is Forestboy signing out. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, give us a thumbs up, make a comment, and if you want to see more, subscribe. So take care, ride safe, see you again, bye for now.